Welcome to MedCrime. Today we shall be looking at the anatomy and physiology of the gastrointestinal tract. In this presentation, we shall look at the general overview of the structure of the gastrointestinal tract, how food is ingested, moves down the GIT tract, how it is digested, and how absorption takes place. When looking at the general principles on the structure of the gastrointestinal tract, the GIT has four anatomical divisions, that is the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and the colon or the large intestine. We also have accessory organs which play a critical role in the digestion and absorption of food. These accessory organs include the teeth, the tongue, and the glands. Let us start by looking at the structure of the GIT wall. The gastrointestinal tract has four layers, and one of the layers is known as the mucosa. The mucosa is the innermost layer, or the layer which faces the lumen, and is divided into three layers. And it's divided into epithelium, the lamina propria, and the muscularis mucosa. The epithelium of the mucosa is a protective barrier and the site of secretion and selective absorption of food. This epithelium type varies from the region to region depending on the function along the GIT. At areas which have more likelihood of friction and injury, the epithelium is a non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. For example, in the mouth, the pharynx, esophagus, and the rectum. In the other areas of secretion and absorption, the epithelium is a simple columnar or cuboidal epithelium. In between the cuboidal cells, we have the scattered exocrine and endocrine glands. The next layer of the mucosa is the lamina propria. The lamina propria acts as a supportive connective tissue into the GIT wall. And lastly, we have the muscularis mucosa, which is a thin layer of smooth muscle. The second layer of the GIT wall is the submucosa. The submucosa is a strong and highly vascular layer of the connective tissue. It consists of the collagen, elastin, glands, blood vessels, nerves, and some mucous plexus of the autonomic nervous system. Then we have the muscularis externa, which consists of the inner muscular and outer longitudinal layers, which is a partial oblique layer present only in the stomach. And in between the muscles of the muscularis externa, we have another autonomic plexus known as myenteric plexus. The muscularis externa layer is the one that provides motility for the gastrointestinal tract. The external surface is the serosa or the adventitia. Depends on its position within the body, and this layer faces the blood and forms a posterior mesentery. What are the main roles of the gastrointestinal system, or the gastrointestinal tract? This tract provides the body with water, electrolytes, and nutrients, basically the carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and vitamins. The four major activities of the gastrointestinal tract are motility or movement, secretion, digestion, and absorption. Motility is the propulsion of the ingested food from the mouth towards the rectum, and secretions aid in digestion and absorption, and digestion can be also in form of mechanical or chemical form, whereby the food is broken down into absorbed molecules, and lastly absorption occurs when there is uptake of nutrients, electrolytes, and water. For these four functions to be complete, the following are necessary, that is circulation and control. Circulation of blood through the gastrointestinal tract helps to carry away the absorbed substances, and the control of these functions is aided by the local, nervous, and hormonal systems. The movement of food in the GIT is achieved by contraction of a type of muscle called the smooth muscles. This contraction is initiated by a mechanical stretch or neuro or hormonal stimuli, and this stimuli leads to an influx of calcium into the muscle cells, This calcium influx causes a contraction of the smooth muscles, and contraction of one muscle spreads through the gap junctions, hence there is what we call syncytium. These contractions help to propel, mix and churn the food. What are the types of smooth muscles that we have in the digestive system? We have longitudinal muscles and circular muscles. The longitudinal muscles are thinner and less powerful. Its contraction shortens the segment of the intestine and expands the lumen. These longitudinal muscles are innervated by the enteric nervous system, mainly by the excitatory motor neuron, and they have less gap junctions. And in these muscles, calcium influx from outside is important. The second type of smooth muscles we have is the circular muscles. These circular muscles are thicker and more powerful than the longitudinal muscles, and their contractions reduces the diameter of the lumen and increases its length. The smooth muscles, specifically circular muscles, are innervated by the enteric nervous system, both excitatory and inhibitory, as compared to the excitatory nature of the longitudinal muscles, and we have more gap junctions than in the longitudinal muscles. And lastly, intracellular release of calcium is more important in its contraction. Within these smooth muscles, we have which is the unitary type and multi-unit type. The unitary type contracts spontaneously in the absence of neuronal or hormonal influence, but in response to a stretch or a mechanical stimuli, for example, stomach fullness and intestine. The cells of the unitary type of smooth muscles are electrically coupled via the gap junctions. On the other hand, we have a multi-unit type which does not contract in response to stretch or without neural input, for example, the esophagus and the gallbladder. What are the types of contractions that we face in the digestive system? The digestive system has two types of contractions: the fascic contractions and tonic contractions. Fascic contractions are periodic contractions which are followed by relaxation. For example, those ones happening in the gastric antrum, small intestine, and the esophagus. The tonic contractions are maintained contractions without relaxation. This one are found or are experienced at the sphincters. For example, the lower esophageal sphincter, the pyloric sphincter, ileocecal sphincter, and internal anus sphincters. These tonic contractions are not associated with any slow waves, and they are caused by continuous repetitive spike potential, hormonal effects, and continuous entry of calcium ions. There are two types of movements occurring in the gastrointestinal tract: peristaltic or propulsive movements and mixing movements. The peristaltic movements cause food to move forward along the tract at an appropriate rate so that it can accommodate digestion and absorption. And mixing movement keep the intestinal contents thoroughly mixed and churned at all times. And in this case, the digestive glands, we have the salivary glands, gastric glands, pancreatic gland, liver, and intestinal glands. In total, these glands secrete a volume between 6 and 8 liters of secretions per day. The salivary glands account for about 1.5 liters of secretions. The liver accounts for about half a liter. Gastric secretions account to 2 liters. Pancreatic secretions to 1.5 liters. Intestinal secretions are around 1.5 liters. And in total we have between 6 to 8 liters of secretions into the digestive system lumen. The digestive juices dilute food, that is, enhance the food osmotic pressure, similar to that of blood. They are responsible for changing the pH value for optimum enzymatic digestion. They also contain enzymes that hydrolyze food or break down food, for example, amylase enzyme, proteinase, lipase enzymes. These digestive juices contain hormones like gastrin, cholecystokinin, secreting hormones, and local chemicals, for example histamine, which regulate the activities of the gastrointestinal tract. Then lastly, the digestive juices or secretions act as a protection, like the mucus, antibodies, and a great quantity of liquid. What is digestion and how does it occur? Digestion occurs in the GI lumen by secreted enzymes and on the surface of enterocytes by membrane-bound enzymes. A typical meal contains carbohydrates, fats, proteins, water, electrolytes, and vitamins. Although water, electrolytes, and vitamins do not require special processing in this case, carbohydrates, fats, proteins need to be broken down into absorbable molecules. So digestion of these various foods takes place by hydrolysis, which is a breakdown of water and a return of hydrogen and hydroxyl ions from water into carbohydrates, protein, or fat molecules. The chemistry of digestion is basically simple. And this is because, in the case of all major three types of food, the same basic process of hydrolysis is involved, and the only difference lies in the types of enzymes which are required to promote hydrolysis reactions for each type of specific food. Many of these enzymes are located in such glands as the salivary glands, or glands in the stomach, or the pancreas, and are secreted into the lumen of the gut. Then absorption occurs by either simple division, facilitated division, active transport, endocytosis, and paracellular transport. This occurs after digestion has taken place. In the gastrointestinal tract, we have a neurocontrol that is as a result of autonomic nervous system, which has extrinsic and intrinsic component. The extrinsic component of autonomic nervous system that supplies the gastrointestinal tract is the sympathetic and parasympathetic innervation. And the intrinsic system of the autonomous nervous system that supplies the gastrointestinal tract is called the enteric nervous system. This enteric nervous system is contained within the wall of the gastrointestinal tract and communicates with the extrinsic component. The intrinsic neurocontrol of the gastrointestinal tract can direct all functions of the gastrointestinal system in absence of extrinsic innervation. This intrinsic mechanism controls contractile, secretory, and endocrine functions of the gastrointestinal tract, and it receives an input from the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, the mechanoreceptors and chemoreceptors in the mucosa. The intrinsic system sends information directly to the smooth muscle, secretory, and endocrine cells. After having looked at the neurocontrol of the gastrointestinal tract, we need to understand the chemical control of the GIT. A number of peptides or short amino acid sequences are responsible for the regulation of the gastrointestinal function. The GI peptides can be divided into three classes based on the site of their release and the site of their action. That is, we have hormones, we have paracrines, and neurocrines. The hormones in the GIT include secretin hormone, gastrin hormone, cholecystokinin, gastrin inhibitory peptide, and motilin hormone. And paracrine hormones include somatostatin and histamine. And lastly, neurocrines include vasoactive intestinal peptide, gastrin-releasing peptide, and enkephalins. Having understood the types of hormones we have in the gastrointestinal tract, what are the functions of the GIT hormones? These gastrointestinal tract hormones regulate digestive gland secretion and digestive tract movement. They also affect trophic action and modulate other hormone secretion. Moving ahead to the gastrointestinal reflexes, we have three types of reflexes. Those are reflexes that are integrated entirely within the gut wall, enteric nervous system. Or secondly, the reflexes from the gut to prefrontal-sympathetic ganglia, and then back to the gastrointestinal tract. And lastly, the reflexes from the gut to the spinal cord or brain system, and then back to the gastrointestinal tract. So what is the blood supply of the digestive or gastrointestinal tract? The gastrointestinal tract gets its blood supply from the abdominal aorta, and the branches from the aorta that supply the GIT are the celiac artery, superior mesenteric artery, and inferior mesenteric artery. The venous drainage occurs to the portal system, and this portal system passes through the secondary capillary bed where phagocyte reticular endothelial cells clean the blood of any bacteria and other particles before the blood enters into the general circulation. Most of the water-soluble non-fat substances are absorbed by the GIT and also carried to the portal circulation to the liver. The liver cells remove about a third to 1/2 of all the nutrients, and fat-soluble substances are absorbed by gastrointestinal tract and delivered to the circulation by intestinal lymphatics.